Today I'm going to be breaking down all of the biggest RPGs in 2024 with not a lot more great or hugely anticipated RPGs coming out until February of next year. And I believe I played all of the big ones. These are obviously only the ones that I specifically played and can talk about. But again, I think I got all the big ones here. I'm rating these on best RPG all the way down to the worst RPG. Not that the worst has to be bad, but the worst that I played this year. And on top of this, I have MMOs in here. I have Souls games, action-adventure RPGs. I have turn-based action combat. We have gacha games in here. We have roguelike games in here. ARPGs in here. Anything that can be considered an RPG, I have on this list. So it's going to be kind of hard to rate some of those above or below other ones, but I'm going to do my best to just give my opinions and say what I enjoyed the most and what I enjoyed the least out of all of these games. So, the first one is Diablo 4, and I've gotten a lot of flack on why I quit Diablo 4, but I'm someone who really enjoys ARPGs. I really enjoyed the beginning of Diablo 4 until, I kind of didn't enjoy the end game as much, but all the way up until the end game, I got a level 100 character right when the game released, and I haven't just really been able to go back and enjoy Diablo 4. With the Vessel of Hatred, I jumped back into it. I enjoyed the new class. I really didn't play the Dark Citadel at all until I jumped back in and absolutely loved the Dark Citadel when I went back in after kind of my feedback video, and all in all, I still think it's a good game. I think it is a very good game if you haven't played it before, but if you're someone who played it and you don't find yourself really enjoying it anymore, I didn't think the new expansion was something that brought me back in to the point where I was in love with the game again, or just in love with the game in general. I had an okay experience and I pretty much quit relatively quickly, although again, I did go back in and do the Dark Citadel, which I had a lot of fun with. So I'm going to put this one at good. It wasn't the best. I enjoy other more complex ARPGs a bit more. Path of Exile, Last Epoch, for example, are more complex. I don't like how in Diablo, I feel like getting a build is a little bit too easy in my opinion. I'm someone who just likes to put 100 hours into a game, and at the end of 100 hours in an ARPG, I like to click one button and blow everything up. That's just the type of player that I am. Diablo 4, you can just kind of get an item and start to kind of do that on a couple different builds, and that's just not something I enjoyed insanely about the game. However, I will say Diablo 4 is the best version of Diablo 4 that it's ever been. This expansion is the best version of the game that it's ever been. So if you want to jump into a brand new game that you haven't played before, Diablo 4 is a great option for you if you haven't played that yet. Now, going into the next one here, Throne and Liberty. So this is an MMORPG over in the East, was brought over here to the West, published by Amazon Game Studios. I put probably 80 hours into this game, and I really enjoyed it for what it was. However, there were a lot of problems that I had with the game that kind of held back my enjoyment over time. I think all the way up until the end game, I had a lot of fun. Constantly with all the different progression systems, with getting my abilities increased, getting my passives increased, getting all of my gear increased in their levels. I just had a lot of fun with it overall. There's a ton of content here. The dungeons are fantastic. Better dungeons than pretty much any MMO I've played for a while, aside from WoW and Final Fantasy XIV. But there's so much jank with the movement, the grapple hook. There's a lot of jank with the combat in general, although it does get a lot better towards the end of the game. And overall, I just thought it was an okay experience. I didn't like all the pay-to-win mechanics in it, especially at endgame. You really feel like you need to start paying in order to keep up with the other players, but obviously you don't need to pay to actually complete all the content in the game. So this is where I'm going to put this game. It is going to be at mid. Throne and Liberty is a mid MMO, but they've improved the game a lot over the last year. I think in the next year, they'll improve it even more. So I think this is a really good spot to put it. I am confident in them that they'll improve the game because they have done so already so far. So it could easily get up to a good or a great over time. Now, the next game here, World of Warcraft, The War Within. I'm actually going to put this right above Diablo in good. I don't think it's great. Obviously, this is the new expansion for World of Warcraft, the start of the big World Soul Saga, which is 3 different expansions all following the same story. And with this, I thought they were going to go to a more mature story in the game. So I didn't really enjoy the story, but I really enjoyed the dungeons. I really enjoyed the raids, the different changes they made to Mythic Plus. All of that was very good in The War Within. I am someone who has played World of Warcraft every single expansion all the way back until I can really remember. Probably Wrath of Lich King is when I started. I was pretty damn young, but I started MMOs all the way back with EverQuest 2, so that was kind of around the same time period there. So I will definitely put this right here at good. I don't think it was great. I think a lot of the stuff was very good, but I think they need to improve PvP in the game. They need to improve the story. Those are things I enjoy in MMOs that I just don't enjoy in World of Warcraft. I don't enjoy the world as much. It doesn't feel as like kind of gritty as the way it used to be, in my opinion. But again, all of the dungeons of the raids, which a lot of people played this game for, were incredible, and that's really why I played the game as well. So it was incredible. Also, the changes to the Dragonflight, or the changes to being able to fly any pretty much mount, not every mount, but a lot of the different mounts with the dragon flying was fantastic. I really like Dragonflight, and I think War Within was even slightly better, if not very similar to Dragonflight in terms of my enjoyment there. So we're going to put that right there at good. Next, Black Myth Wukong, great. Absolutely fantastic game. One of my favorite RPGs of this year, hands down, no question. New studio, Game Science, came out, made a kind of Souls-like, kind of action-adventure type of game, but combine those two kind of genres there, you get Black Myth Wukong. Some of the best bosses in gaming. So many different bosses that weren't reused. I really liked all the secrets that you could find within the game and the exploration, although I really did not like all of the invisible walls. That kind of turned me off a couple times in terms of the immersion within Black Myth Wukong, but the combat was incredible. The progression was incredible. Being able to refund that and change it depending on what boss you're fighting was absolutely incredible. I think overall, the game was so damn good. I also really liked crafting all the different builds and theory crafting with all of the different gear sets and things like that. The game was fantastic. All the way to the end of the game, you keep finding and keep getting new things that make it feel fresh, and overall, just a fantastic game, and I can't wait to see what Game Science does in the future. The story was also incredible. The cutscenes, where some are stop motion, some are like straight on anime, all of that between the different chapters was also incredible. I just really liked it. Really liked that game as a whole. So, the next game here, Zenless Zone Zero. I believe that's the picture. Yeah, Zenless Zone Zero. So, we're going to put this game in mid. I was thinking about putting it in bad, but here's the thing. This was my first gacha game that I really tried to get into. I'm not a huge gacha player, and I just felt like the game was boring to me. So, a lot of gacha players are going to probably come in if they see this video and be relatively mad at this, but I didn't really love the characters. I didn't really love the different storylines. I didn't really love the combat. The combat felt very basic in that I could just kind of clear everything super easily with just clicking one button and not necessarily trying. There was just a lot of issues with this game as a whole that I didn't necessarily like, but I do know that as more updates came out, the game has gotten a lot harder and the combat gets more complex as you go, but from when I played the game, I dropped it relatively quickly. It wasn't very fun. It wasn't very challenging to me. I didn't get immersed into the world or the characters, so I'm just going to kind of keep that in mid. And I'm probably just not a huge gacha player in general. I'm going to be completely honest. So apologies if you guys don't like my opinion on that one. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people that do love gacha games, that do like this game, because I know some people really like Zenless Zone Zero, but it was not my tastes. Not my personal tastes. The next, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, best RPG I played. Hands down, it's not even a question. It's better than Wukong. It's better than all these other games I've listed. It is by far the best RPG of 2024. I know it's an expansion, but this game should be up there as a full game because it literally has like 60 hours of fucking content in this thing. The bosses, incredible. The scenery, the music, the environment as a whole, incredible. The combat, carrying it over from Elden Ring, is incredible. All the different new weapons, all of the different new abilities that you can use, all of the different new builds that you can use, how hard the bosses are, and how you genuinely feel like you have to really learn Elden Ring all over again and get even better than you really were in the base game to fight these bosses and to actually beat these bosses, because you can't just overscale them with levels. I really like that as well, although I think that lacks a little bit of replayability, having to go around and get all the stuff to get stronger to actually fight these bosses, but that's besides the point. I did the whole thing without summons, so I don't know how easy it is with summons, but the only other problem with this was the last boss was absolutely horrendous. Consort Radon, you can't even fucking see in the second phase. You literally can't see a thing, but other than that, all the other bosses, Mesmer specifically, the big dragon, oh my god, what is the dragon's name? I forget his name, but absolutely incredible boss as well. Just so damn good. The story and the lore and how they explained more of the lore from the original Elden Ring, it's so damn incredible, man. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is, in my opinion, a 10 out of 10 expansion, and Elden Ring, in my opinion, is a 10 out of 10 game. One of my favorite games of all time, one of the best expansions of all time, best RPG of 2024, hands down. Hades. We're going to put Hades right below Black Myth Wukong, and great. And this is because it is an early access right now. I know they just actually released a huge update. This game was really good. The original Hades was really good. This game is also fantastic. Hades 2 is a roguelike, just like the first one, where if you're not familiar with the roguelike, every time you die, you come back, you bring some of the bonuses with you from when you died, or you buy some bonuses that you can take on in your next run. You're continuously getting stronger, and you have different randomized events to kind of craft your build as you go through one of your runs to try to get the best build as possible and beat the last boss. And there's multiple different bosses in there. Hades 2 was fantastic. The art style, the music, all the characters I really enjoyed. I think it's a very unique take on just the different characters within the game and the different lore. I think it's just an absolutely incredible game overall, and I think with the updates it's going to get even better to be potentially up there past Black Myth Wukong. I put a ton of hours into this. I made a ton of different builds, and overall I just really enjoyed my time with the game. So next is Dawn Trail. What do I need to say about Dawn Trail? Dawn Trail I'm going to put above Diablo 4 but below The War Within, because Dawn Trail, and why I play Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO in general, is for the story. It has the best story in MMOs in history, and it's not even close. But Dawn Trail took a big step back. There were a lot of pacing issues and just times where I think the story got boring. They introduced Wuk Lamont as a character that was going to be in the game pretty consistently, and I did not like Wuk Lamont. Overall, the story just wasn't great, and that's really why I play Final Fantasy XIV, or like 50% of why I play the game, but the other 50% was great. I really enjoyed the dungeons. I really enjoyed the raids and the trials. They were some of the best that Final Fantasy has ever done, literally ever. So it was kind of a mix there between the story and the actual content of the game. I still like the PvP in Dawn Trail in Final Fantasy XIV, but the PvP no one really cares about, but I do enjoy it. So there was some things I enjoyed, some things I didn't enjoy. I think overall I enjoyed War Within more and got more time out of that than in Dawn Trail, but I think Dawn Trail, as the story progresses, will get even better, way better than it started with over time, because it is kind of the start to a whole new saga within the Final Fantasy XIV universe. Next here, we have Dragon Age the Veilguard. Ooh, this is hard, because as you guys know, a big part of my channel has been covering things on Dragon Age the Veilguard. And I really enjoyed the game for what it was, although there were some issues with the dialogue, and there was issues with the writing and the characters and the companions. A lot of that stuff I didn't like, but I really enjoyed the combat, and I really enjoyed the different builds that you can make, and I really enjoyed the battle on Weishaupt, or the assault on Weishaupt, and the finale of the game, where your choices do come to that culmination. There were so many things I loved about this game, and then so many things that really dragged about this game that I didn't like very much. So I'm going to put this in good. Did I enjoy it more than the MMOs I played? I would probably put it... this is hard. I'm just going to put it in good. I'll put it at the end of good because it's hard to compare to some of these games. Maybe I'll put it above Diablo 4. Maybe I'll put it above Diablo 4 and below Dawn Trail and War Within. I might have enjoyed those a little bit more. I'm actually going to move it up above Dawn Trail, below War Within, and that's where we're going to kind of set it right there. It was a good game. I really enjoyed it. The hate, I don't think, is necessary for this game, but it also depends on if you enjoy RPGs for the combat and the build theory crafting and all that type of stuff, or you enjoy RPGs for the dialogue and the companions, which a lot of people enjoy BioWare-specific RPGs for, but this was a reinvention of the franchise, and for what it was, I thought it was a pretty damn good RPG overall, and I enjoyed a lot of aspects of that game. Next, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. This game, in my opinion, is mid. There were a lot of really good things about it. I really loved how at the end of the game that you could just pretty much sit there, put all of your different companions on autoplay and not even touch the game. That's something I actually enjoy within games, because I feel like, damn, I mastered this shit. But overall, I wasn't overly impressed by a lot of what this game had to offer. I wasn't overly impressed with the characters. I wasn't overly impressed with the story. I did like the combats, but overall, I'm just going to put it in mid. It wasn't something that really spoke to me. I think the reason I would put something like Veilguard higher is just because the lore in the world, I think I enjoyed more because of how much I love the Dragon Age universe. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink was just, it was just okay to me. There wasn't anything that I thought was extremely amazing, and there wasn't anything that I thought was absolutely terrible. It was just very 5 out of 10 for me, in my opinion. I know a lot of people do really like this game, so I apologize if this doesn't really fit what you guys were thinking, but that's where I'm going to put it. The next one, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, this game was incredible. It was so damn good. I didn't enjoy it as much as Wukong, but I enjoyed it more than Hades. I also enjoyed the first Final Fantasy VII Remake, and this one obviously is a continuation of that. The graphics are fantastic. The characters are fantastic. The story are fan-fucking-tastic. The environment, the lore, everything about this game was so damn good. The only thing I didn't like about this game, that I have a problem with all of the Final Fantasy games recently, specifically Final Fantasy 16, is I just wish there were more RPG elements in terms of like the progression with your weapons and your character and your skills and things like that. That's the only thing that I really think they need to do better with the Final Fantasy games. But other than that, I mean, the game was absolutely fantastic. It was a joy all the way through. An easy 9 out of 10 game in my opinion. And yeah, overall, I think it was a great RPG. Now, Dragon's Dogma 2. Dragon's Dogma 2. So Dragon's Dogma is a very interesting one, because this game was very good in a lot of ways. A ton of ways. The first 10 hours of this game is like a 10 out of 10, hands down, no question. But as you go through the game, you start to see a lot of issues that the game actually has that you didn't realize at the beginning of the game. And the biggest is the enemy variety. There's no enemy variety in this game. The enemies you fight in the first couple hours are the same enemies you're fighting at the end of the game, except for maybe skinned differently with maybe one extra ability or something like that. It was absolutely terrible enemy variety, which the combat's fan-fucking-tastic, so it kind of helps offset that. But also on top of this, the story is pretty damn good the first half of the game and gets just terrible and rushed to the second half, where you were like, what the hell? The game just ended? There is a secret ending, which makes both of those kind of irrelevant. Better enemy variety, amazing bosses. The story, I think, is pretty damn cool. The whole world changes, but that's literally a secret ending, and it's not as many hours as you're going to be playing in that ending as you are the rest of the game. The ending's also time-gated, so I think it's really cool. However, there were super big issues with the game. Although I did love the combat, I loved the world, I loved the questing in this game, where it didn't really tell you what to go, you had to figure it out. It really immerses you in it. But there's just some shit that's just annoying in this game too. When you're traveling via the ox cart and you get the ox cart broken by something every single damn time, and then you have to run, and it literally takes 10-15 minutes in real life time to get where you need to go. It is so damn frustrating. So it's kind of a balance there. I think it's still a very good RPG. I'm gonna put it, I probably even enjoyed it more than War Within. I don't think it's a great RPG because of those issues. I think it's good, and just like the first Dragon's Dogma, I think the expansion is going to completely make this game way better than it is now. The expansion for Dragon's Dogma 1 is a masterpiece. I'm hoping they do the same for Dragon's Dogma 2, because Dragon's Dogma 1 was kind of in the same boat with Dragon's Dogma 2 until that expansion came out, at least in my opinion. So now we have Last Epoch. Last Epoch, I think Last Epoch is great. I literally think Last Epoch is great. Last Epoch, if you don't know it, not as many people know this game as some of these other ones, but it is an ARPG, and it aimed to be less complex than Path of Exile, but more complex than a game like Diablo, for example. And I really think it hit the sweet spot perfectly. Your abilities and the way you progress in the game, and have each of your ability have different skill trees that completely change the way the ability works and looks. It's awesome. I think the crafting in this game is some of the best crafting, and it's very streamlined to where somebody can understand it going into this game for the first time. You don't need to really look up build guides to make a really good build, which I really appreciate. However, if you do, you can make something even more overpowered. So overall, Last Epoch was great. It didn't have as good of an end game, but they are improving that with updates. The first big season that came out for the game, I thought brought a lot of really good updates. So overall, I think this was a great game, and it's one of probably my favorite ARPG out right now, but I know Path of Exile 2 is going to come out, and it's going to blow probably all this shit out of the water. So I would put Last Epoch here at great. Now, the last game is Metaphor ReFantazio, and god damn is this a good-ass game. This game has one of the most unique art styles I have ever seen. The music is incredible. The story and the nuance that they talk about the different politics in the world is incredible. The characters are incredible. I really like the combat, and I like, even if you're not a huge turn-based guy, there are some smaller enemies you can just beat with action combat, which I think makes the pacing of the game very good. I think the progression of the game was very good, and it was pretty damn in-depth. And overall, I just really enjoyed this game as a whole. I think I didn't enjoy it as much as Wukong, maybe just because I'm a big Souls guy and a big Souls fan, and Wukong kind of just exceeded all the expectations I had for it. Metaphor did too, but Wukong, I just thought it was going to be an okay game, and I just continued to be blown away. And it was similar with Metaphor as well, so I'm going to put it up there as a great RPG, and this is going to be my list, which makes Zenless Zone Zero the worst RPG. I just got to put it down there. I think it's a mid-game. I don't think it's a necessarily bad game. Definitely the worst RPG I think that I have played this year, in my personal opinion. So there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully I don't get a ton of flack for this one here. I know people are going to have very different opinions than I have here, but I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Something a little bit different. Let me know if you guys want me to do tier lists in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!